if you have gifts and a purpose, you need to own the shit out of that stuff, because when you do not respect your gifts, you will keep pulling in really silly little experiences. But when you own what God gave you, whoo, that is there's like nothing that can stop you.
There are a number of people who would look at you and I and say, okay, I'm going to create a $150,000 offer. Okay, I'm going to create a $25,000 mastermind. I can do that. I'm worthy of this. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. And they got the crystals and the jewels and the mirror and the affirmations. And they're like, I'm worthy. And then they post on Instagram, I have a $25,000 mastermind. And they hear crickets. And so then what does that do? It reaffirms they're not worthy of it. And the belief system and those stories start to come into play. And then they retract into a scarcity mindset. And then they go back into their $27 offers. There are a number of steps of identity, which is the word that you used, that need to happen in order for you to be vibrating on the frequency where you are there. What's up, Savages, and welcome back to another episode on the Business Savage podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Britton, and I am so excited today to bring to you a guest, a friend of mine, a client of mine, Camille. Camille, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Today, we are rounding off of 2 very intense days. Camille flew in from California, and we had very intense days for a VIP brand shoot. So we will dive into some juicy elements of that. But before we get into any of that, I'm going to introduce you to Camille. Camille is a business coach, but I'm going to drizzle in with a lot of spirituality and a lot of astrology. Mm-hmm. And so a very different approach to business coaching, which I appreciate so much about you. And I think this is God, and the way that God speaks to us is, I come from traditionally a very masculine place when I would always coach in business. And I would say that yours is kind of the complete opposite. Right. Although there's a lot of structure in you and what you do, you predominantly come from a place of flow, and you come from a place of tuning in, trust, surrender, no ads, no sales calls. This girl's, done a 7-figure business, and it was 0 ads, 0 sales calls. And when she came into my ecosystem, it was like, I have done incredible things and I am ready to do even more. Like, let's crank the dial on that. And so I'm looking for, some structure into that. And so she just hit her first 200K month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about how she feels that she was able to do that and how we're going to help get her to $1 million months.
Yep.
And one of the elements in the conversations that we want to dive so deeply into today is the conversation of death and rebirth. Mm-hmm. And in order to step into a new version of yourself, the old version of you has to die. We have to create space for that newness to come into your life. And so let's start off by telling the bits and pieces of your story that you feel right now called to share in terms of what has brought you into this room today. We're in Soundshed Studios in Austin, Texas. You're here from California. Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of your story if we take it back to the beginning of you learning astrology and becoming a business coach, and what led you here today.
Yeah, I have a very untraditional path in business. And it's funny because I come from a line of entrepreneurs, but my entire life I was like, no, I'm here to help people. I'm not going to do business. Like, I was very against business my whole life. And it kind of ties back into the way that I learned astrology. And my grandmother was actually the way that I learned astrology. She was way before her time. She drove a gold bug. She got her master's in art. She lived in West Marin. And this woman was literally like a visionary artist. And my parents would drop me off at her artist studio. And I just remember it being this like really small space with all these beautiful paints and huge canvases. And it was just like the most incredible space to be in. And she would just plop me down and start to talk to me about my chart and astrology and the stars. And, years and years later, because she passed away when I was 12, my aunt opened up one of her astrology books, and she found a handwritten paper, and she mapped my entire astrology chart when I was born. And to do that back in the 80s, like, we didn't have any apps. We didn't have any of those things, like, really went into all of the pieces. And her birthday was 3 days after mine. Her name was Ophelia, but that's how the love of astrology was birthed into my life. And so there was always this like duality, right, between the part of my family that was very traditional. My mom came from like a military background. And then there was my one grandmother who just was this wild, creative, astrologer, painter. And I feel like I'm the fusion of that. And so that's actually where this lifelong obsession came from. And I just dived, like, as soon as I could read as much as I could understand about astrology and about myself. That's where a lot of my focus was, because I had a lot of I was kind of a weird kid. I had a lot of questions about, why am I here? What is my purpose? Like, I didn't watch cartoons. I watched like the Turner Classic Movie Channel. Like, I was a very, very old soul from the beginning. And I wanted to understand why. And astrology really helped me find that light in what I consider some really dark times of my life, like my childhood and just going through so much at a young age. So it just gave me purpose, and it gave me insight. And it gave me a little bit of structure of understanding, like, maybe there was a bigger reason why I was here. And there was always two things that I knew ever since I was super, super little. And it was, I was here to help people, and that I had written this story before, and now I'm just living it. And it really, that's like everything that I come back to with my clients is, your wealth, your success, everything is inside of you already. It's just about allowing yourself to move into that space of greatness, right? So that's actually how the love of astrology happened. And, because it came from a traditional background, helping people translate it into becoming a doctor. So I was planning on becoming a doctor, got pre-medical degrees, was about to go to medical school. And that's actually when my younger brother was murdered. And that type of experience just shakes you on a core level where everything that seemed important no longer existed in your world. And every identity, every goal, every single thing that I had ever planned my life for completely went out the window. So I spent the next 10 years moving from getting research degrees and all of those things into this spiritual awakening, trying to understand and fuse how to use herbs, how to use like astrology or esoteric practices, and like what I was really called here to do. And so over those next 10 years or so before I started Vital Mystic, I was on kind of what you would call like a seeker's path, trying to understand and make sense of some really horrendous things that had happened, but finding the golden thread through it all. And that's actually how Vital Mystic was born. And now it's a 7-figure brand, but I literally resisted business and structure from the get-go. And it's just, I kind of like chuckle to myself. I'm like, oh, you just hit your 200K month. Like, for somebody who literally refused to take a business class, I find it hilarious, because the universe is always going to like cookie crumble you. It's like, I always feel like the universe is like, just take this one step and this one step. I never planned to business coach. I had like, if you told me 3 years ago I would be teaching business coaching to 7-figure entrepreneurs, I'd be like, you're totally nuts. And here we are. And it's a natural gift that I have. So,
Have you ever sat in a room where everyone finally exhales? That's the $1 billion vision event. This isn't another panel day. It's depth. It's devotion. It's mentors who have walked through the fire and brought back the map. You will cry. You will laugh. You'll see yourself in their stories, and you will leave with certainty that you cannot shake. I'm bringing my signature talk, which you'll have to come to see what it is. Come meet the version of you that has been waiting for you to tap into her. 2 days, Madison, Wisconsin, February 25th to the 26th. Comment the word billion down below and I will shoot you over a link with all of the details. But I wouldn't wait. VIP tickets are already 50% sold out. And I've got a code for y'all at checkout. Use the code Cassandra for 10% off your ticket price. This is the moment that you stop asking for permission and you start claiming the version of you that you've always desired to become. I'll see you in the room. Yeah. That's what happens when you just surrender.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about was being touched by God. And so I believe that that's him speaking through you and you allowing yourself to step back and say, hey, I'm going to allow you to be I'm going to be the conduit and allow you to speak through me. What am I here to do?
Right.
And there's an element of surrender that comes with that.
Yeah.
And what I feel called to talk about here is there's an element of surrender in everything that we do in mass success. But in that, there's also the element of like, God has a plan for you, but you also have to take action on
Yes.
said plan,
Yep.
right? We can't just be like, well, I'm going to manifest this, or God's going to introduce this into my life and it's going to happen because it's already written in the stars and it's already his plan. And I'm just going to throw my hands back, surrender, and let it happen.
100%.
Right. But also, if we don't take any action on that plan and take the
Yep.
steps, then nothing actually comes to fruition, right? There's an
Yeah.
element of all of that. And we always have a choice. What does it mean for you to be touched by God?
Like, I mean, for me, what it means to be touched by God is to listen to the greatest love that I've ever known in my life. I think to be touched, I think we talked about this obviously through the last few days because it's been such a big piece that's been coming through in my life, but it's being willing to listen in the moments where you have the greatest scarcity, the greatest fear, the greatest doubt, and it literally looks like everything is crumbling around you. And yet, that's when the hand reaches out. And I feel like it's so powerful with what you said is that we always have a choice, and that's true. And the moments that I did not listen, ultimate universal smackdown moments, and I'm really grateful for those moments now because looking back over my life and I'm like, oh, you were choosing this chaos, right? And there was always the door open for you to come into this level of success or love or whatever it was, but I felt always like I had to do it all on my own. And I think we touched on this. And, I had to kind of get tired of my own stuff, my own control, my own personal bulletproof vest that I was guarding myself from the world after so many experiences. And I had to come into that space of surrender. So, touched by God to me is like touched by love in a way that, and you could even say light, but touched by a love so deep that it's an unconditional feeling. And it's like, it doesn't matter where you are at or what you're experiencing, there is still a door open for you at all times. And when you say yes, the entire universe will conspire around you. It will ask you to do things that are very uncomfortable, like maybe leaving certain relationships or connections or things or identities that literally you never thought you would leave. But ultimately, it will completely usher you into exactly where you're meant to be.
I
Yeah.
want to bring some context to this
Yeah.
because I know the listeners of this show and I appreciate you and I appreciate my knowledge and my wisdom.
Yeah.
However, I know that there's some people that are listening to this right now that are like, but how?
Yeah.
Like, give me that masculine step or give me like the tactical component of how to
Yeah.
do this, right? For you and I, it's a knowing, it's an intuition, it's a feeling.
100%. Yeah.
I know when something is a full body yes. I know when something
Yeah.
is a full body no. And that's not me, that's God.
Yeah.
And God speaks
Absolutely.
to me all day, every day. And the
Mhm.
more that I lean in and I go, oh, I see you. I see
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And you say yes. And I don't know why. I don't know why I'm trusting this. I don't know why I'm surrendering to this, but I know that this is you. And so I'm just going to trust and I'm going to follow it.
100%.
A lot of people don't know how to listen to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to be aware to that. They say, I want God to talk to me. God doesn't talk to me. How come he talks to you? He doesn't talk to me.
Yeah.
But he is, and they're
Yeah.
just not necessarily aware. And
Yeah.
so if we can kind of remove ourselves for 1 second and maybe give some perspective or some context to that person who is so desperately seeking to be touched by God,
Yeah.
what could you tell them? What advice could you share with them on where to start seeing the signs, where to start seeking it out, how to start trusting and knowing what it looks like? This universal smackdown that you talk about.
Yeah.
It's because you weren't listening.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to do that. So what does that look like?
So I can only teach from my experience, which is the moments when I wasn't listening. It's like when I was really developing my gifts and before I knew that I heard God, it would come through in like thoughts, right? Or it would come through like now it's a knowing, it's a feeling in my body. It's like I cannot ignore it because I know what happens when you ignore it. But it's in those moments of like, why is this happening? Right. And so usually it's coming from any of those moments are usually coming from needing to force to create something in your life. And anytime I have tried to force to create something in my life, I've either gotten there and it's not worked out, or it's blown up in my face, or something has happened. So my biggest invitation for people is to literally take 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes a day, maybe 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, and just listen. Literally go for a walk and just listen. Like for me, I feel like God is always speaking, but we have to be quiet enough to listen. And this is a lot of what I teach in ritual. But it's like taking that intentional space to ask and receive, right? Because when we, get out of our ego driven, mind driven, whatever we're doing over there, when we take the opportunity to surrender intentionally in that moment, whatever it is, and we're saying, please provide, like, please give me the next steps, or allow for me to see whatever I can't see right now, or I release the resistance, or whatever it is, we're opening the door too, because it's a two-way street, right? Think about any relationship in your life. Like, if you're just like, oh, well, God's not talking to me, I'm like, are you opening the door? Are you even taking time to
Well,
talk?
yeah, I am.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't. So here's a lot of things that I think people think of as just like, well, I'm going to do all my journaling. I'm going to do all these steps, and then I'm going to force it. And it's like, God is not forced. It's allowed, right? And you have to be in a receiving mode, you're feminine, to be able to do that.
Yeah. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
A lot of people know this story. You may not know the whole one, so I'll just share it really quickly. To the moment where I first realized the masculine feminine, and now it's all I talk about. It's all I teach. It's the theme of duality. It's one of my biggest keynotes. It's the heartbeat of my book.
Yeah.
And it's because I grew up a dominant masculine energy. I played competitive hockey, boys hockey. A lot of people know that story. And coming from a place where I saw the relationship with my parents, I put on an armor. I put on a shield. And it was like, Cassandra's got it. I don't need anybody. I'm going to do it all by myself. I built, successful businesses in a very dominant masculine energy, found a business coach, took me down to Austin, and I had my first breathwork ceremony. And I sat there like a stubborn little spoiled brat with my arms crossed. Someone's popping off next to me. She's laughing. She thought she died and came back to earth, and everyone's doing, whatever they're doing. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the actual heck is going on? These people are on drugs. Like, nobody gave me the drugs. Like, I'm just lying here thinking this is ridiculous. And so, fast forward to the ceremony's over and I'm walking out, again, arms crossed, thinking this is ridiculous. And the gentleman pulls me aside who facilitated the experience. And he said, "You didn't have an experience, did you?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "You were wearing a bulletproof vest and nobody here has a gun. Until you decide to take off that vest and I get emotional thinking about it, allow yourself to receive all of the invitations that are here for you, you will never have an experience. You will stay stuck in that masculine." And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what any of that meant. But here's the piece that I invite people to listen to. It started with the curiosity. It started with him saying that, and it landed. And I was like, what's he talking about? And so then I was curious. And so I would look a little bit more into it. What is this breathwork thing? Let me ask the guy beside me that popped off. What was going on in his world? Let me talk to the girl behind me that was laughing hysterically the whole time. Let me talk to the girl who said she died and came back. And let me just be curious to have some of these conversations. And in that process, it opens you up to a world that you had never experienced before. I think so many of us stay stuck inside of this box of what we think reality is. And for me, coming into my feminine, truly coming into my feminine, which I have become so much more powerful in my life, in my business, in myself, in my confidence, in my voice, in my relationships, becoming a mother, all of these things, when I decided to receive, when I decided to be open, and when I decided to step into that feminine. And by the way, that doesn't mean that the masculine is now gone.
Right.
I preach duality. And that also doesn't mean, and the Libra in me and the Libra in you, there's no balance. I'm not talking about scales where it's feminine here, masculine here, and we're doing this beautiful dance. It's like this.
Yeah.
Right? There's seasons in our lives where I'm more in my masculine. There's things in my life that I'm more in my masculine. And then there's others that I allow that feminine to come in.
Right.
And so I just think that that's really important to talk about. It's when we want to step into this, there's an element of curiosity. You have to take off the I know everything mask and allow yourself to be open and to be curious even if you don't necessarily agree,
Yeah.
just be curious enough to have the conversations to allow other perspectives to come into your world.
Absolutely.
What do you have to say about all of that?
I mean, I pretty much was the same exact way. And I think it really comes down to like the way that we also dance in relationships. And for me, when I look at success or business, it's about a relationship with oneself. It's about a relationship with the people around you. It's about a relationship, and you could say balance, but a reciprocity between the masculine and feminine. And I find that, I think I was so far in my masculine for a very long time, then swinging and opening up to my feminine was just kind of like, oh, like I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like to grip, like it was like needing to survive. And for years and years and years, I learned to open up and relax. And I think it's like when you can, I'm not going to say balance because I don't feel you're ever going to be in a perfect balance. It's more like movement. And it really comes to the place of allowing yourself to have that structure and then allowing yourself to not be a know-it-all. Because I don't know shit. You know what I mean? I have some wisdom, I have some things, but I don't know everything. I'm not God. You know what I mean? And also, I think the curiosity piece means that life can still be fun because when you know everything, God, that's got to be fucking boring. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how can I learn? I'm sure you like have been learning so much in motherhood, and it's like, what are these next roles? What are these curiosity moments? How can I play with this? How can I be open? And I always talk about the judgment piece from the mind, and I always feel like we judge things that are actually really truly for us first, very similar to your breathwork experience. It's like, oh, this person created success this way and blah, 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 blah. And then when you actually get in there and that you get to know them, it's like, oh, actually, they're actually really cool. You know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like there's a certain level of subconscious resistance towards the things that are actually going to be really successful or really good for you because your subconscious knows that your identity is going to completely rebirth and you can't tell the same story.
This is a great segue.
Yeah.
Great segue into the heartbeat of this conversation. I think that you and I have so many different ways that we can convey this message. You have some physical ways that there's been death, and then there's also, kind of more spiritual ways that there's been death. And so I think what I can speak to with this is in order to step into, and I also hate, let me take a step back because I also hate saying step into.
Yeah.
Step into implies that it's outside of you, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually want to just take that back because it's already within you.
Yeah.
And so there's no need to actually step into it. There's an allowance for it to emerge.
Yep.
And that's kind of a better way that I like to explain it.
Yeah.
It's always been there.
Yeah.
All of it has always been there. This version of me that you're experiencing now, she's been in here the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I just hadn't come into her. I hadn't allowed her to express. I hadn't
Right.
found that voice, all of those types of things. But in order for that to emerge and in order for these new versions of my business, my life, my relationships, all of these things to emerge, old identities have to die.
Yeah.
I cannot allow these old beliefs, these old stories, these old identities that I hold so close to, and it's like you're grasping it so tight.
Yeah.
I cannot hold those and also do the things that I have never done.
Yes.
And motherhood is the most relevant example for me right now. I didn't know what it was going to look like on the other side of motherhood, but it was a 100% trust and surrender that God's got us.
Yep.
This episode is sponsored by Glossy, my favorite hack to add in my water. Let's be real, beauty and wellness can be overwhelming. We're all trying to do a million things, skincare routines, all of the supplements, hydration. But what if it could be simplified? This is where Glossy comes in. It's a drinkable beauty supplement packed with probiotics, hyaluronic acid, and magnesium to support your gut health, hydration, and skin glow in one effortless sip. I add it to my water every morning and sip it throughout the day. It tastes amazing. It's got this lemony flavor to it. Super refreshing, and it's not too sweet. I even replaced some of my old supplements with Glossy because it does so much in just one step. I started noticing results in month 2, and I love that my subscription keeps me consistent and stocked up. Go to getglossy.com and use my code SAVAGE for 15% off. Also, this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition, but you need to try this game changer. I've now got many of my friends and clients hooked, so give it a try and thank me later. I didn't know if I was going to be a good mom. I didn't know what my birth was going to be like, which is a whole other story. Right? All of these things.
Yeah.
But in order to step into being a mother, there's all of these pieces and elements of Cassandra pre being a mother that are no longer here anymore.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest ways that I see this shift is before I was a mother, it's about Cassandra. There's an ego there, and there's a level of self where I was out for my best interest, what I want from my life, all of these things. Now, Cassandra's second, and my son Coast is first.
Yeah.
What is best for him always comes first. And so having the ability to put yourself on the back burner and have truly another human being, like truly another human being's well-being above your own is something that I was never prepared to do. And I've had to really learn how to let elements of my life and grieve those elements of my life go so that I can fully embody with all of me this new version of motherhood. You have a physical story of this. Your brother was murdered. How long ago was that?
About 15 years. Yeah.
So physical death, but this is also the opening of a door, the opening of a gateway, and the catalyst into Vital Mystic and into you stepping into your fullest expression.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Vital Mystic was born from that journey of grief. And I think when I started Vital Mystic, I had no idea what I was actually doing, which I feel like none of us really do. It's one of those cosmic cookie crumbles. Like I said, if you would have told me 5, 6, 7 years ago I'd be here, I'd be like, you're absolutely freaking crazy, So, but Vital Mystic really is about recognizing that you have the power within to overcome anything that you're experiencing in your life. I don't even want to say overcome, but transcend, And so ultimately, for me, going through a very difficult experience at the age of 23, when most people are building businesses, going to parties, I was going to court cases to defend my brother when the entire world turned on him. And it was a very raw, real experience at 23. And it left me with a lot of questions about, the infrastructure of what community is, like what the point of life is, like all those questions I had when I was little came back so loud. And it honestly felt like I was walking through a fog for at least a decade because it was like I couldn't even make clear decisions. And I was really searching. I was searching for mentors, for people, like all sorts of things. And they showed up when they needed to, for sure. And I had little clues here and there. But really, I wanted to provide a space where people could come in and feel held, and feel like that presence, you could say touched by God. You could, like when people come into the rituals, they definitely feel it, but it's like that presence of home, because that's actually what got me through those moments, got me through the moments of like literally not wanting to be on this planet anymore, right? Think about the most important person to you, completely gone. And it's like taking the sun out of the sky. So that's what Vital Mystic was born into, or kind of started. And it's so funny because it started off as a tincture and tonic line. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about the moon, went completely viral. And it was like, I feel like when I always talk about business, I'm like, it's going to be the right thing because it just feels easy, right? It feels like your second nature.
And also scary.
Exactly. Because it's like, I remember even like, I was never the woman who's like, I want to be a witch online. Like for me to come out and say I had these really powerful spiritual practices was like, it was witch wound stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. What are my friends going to think? Like literally nobody knew this about me. And it was like on purpose, and it was easy and there was support, but it also required me to look deep into the fear around what are people going to think of me. And it's funny because, I always held a belief that when I became really successful, I would lose all the people that I love. And I'm not exactly sure where that belief came from, probably somewhere way back when, but it was something that I really worked with a lot because it was, you know, I think I was like opposite. I was always so concerned about everybody else. It was really hard to focus on myself. And it was the first time that I really was asked to kind of focus on myself, regardless of what other people said or regardless of what other people thought. And I have been told I'm crazy, like it's never going to work, blah, blah, blah. And here we are years later and it's completely successful. So I go
I got
ahead.
to jump in because I got to talk
Yeah.
about this because it's so relevant to what I preach.
Yeah.
You know in your being what you are called here to do.
100%.
You know your truth. You have walked the steps of your life. I haven't, and nobody else listening to this show ever will.
Yeah.
And so for you to come from a place of authenticity and share your message and share what feels so right for you, nobody else can ever understand that. And that is a piece of branding that I feel like is so often ignored that holds people back.
Yeah.
Because they think, well, they won't understand.
Right.
I have to understand and care about how they're going to view me, what they're going to think about me. What are they going to think if I call myself a witch? What are they going to think about my little rituals? What are they going to think if I say this? What are they going to think if I say that? I can't say that because this might be perceived that way. They will never freaking understand you.
Yeah.
I will never fully understand you.
Yeah.
And so we have to, at some point, let go of that and realize that when I open up my voice and I decide to speak my truth from my knowing, from the steps that I have taken and the things that I have seen in my life, I know that I'm serving from a place that is authentic and that is true. And it doesn't matter if 5 people like it or 5 million people like it.
Right. Exactly.
I'm doing what feels true for me. And that is the piece and the element of branding. It is not about going viral. It is not about a million followers. It doesn't even matter if 2 people listen to this or if I get on a stage to keynote speak and 1 person, it changes their life.
Yep.
When you're speaking from such a place of truth, which is, I just heard you say, right, this fear of what if other people think about me, that is the number one fear that stops people from using their voice.
Yep.
So I just had to interject to say that because it felt so timely to you saying like those fears existed there and people were saying things and you having fear of stepping into scared that you were going to alienate yourself because the success was my biggest fear. And so I resonate so deeply with that. And it's because there's a sense, we go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's a sense of need of belonging.
Yeah.
And so we think that if we elevate to this level and people don't understand and they're partying and they're drinking and they're doing their thing down here and I'm over here doing whatever you're doing and they look from external eyes onto this, they will never understand.
Right.
And so that is an invitation for whoever needs to hear that right now. Like, it doesn't matter who understands. As long as you know that it's in alignment, the people who resonate, that frequency will attract them.
100%. Yeah. And it's so interesting because that's what Vital Mystic really brought in. And it was like, I don't want to say I was like on the outskirts, like an outsider, but it kind of felt that way. And now my life every single day is surrounded by people who understand, not even just understand, they resonate with what my vision is. Like, obviously, I met you. Like, I honestly feel like Vital Mystic and all of the things that I've done along this path and said yes to in that courageous moment has brought me the aligned people. It's like God just puts them into my path and is like, hey, work with this person, do this, or whatever it is. And you know, I feel like you're going to be really successful if you are afraid of it. And that's what I always say. It's never about saying the perfect thing. It's just being who you are and allowing, because the whole point of being who you are, it's going to repel and attract. And that's its job, right? I am not for everybody, but for the right people, yes, right? And we are going to be there together. And that's the piece is like, I always talk about this with my clients, and I always say this on my platform, which is there's a reason why God is speaking to you, not to them. So listen, because there are so many moments where I was like, nobody else sees this. Nobody else is getting these downloads. Like nobody else is like, and I was just like, I just remember all my friends going to parties and stuff. I'm like, I just don't care. Like, I just don't care, And I'm like, this is on the surface fun, but it's just like, and not to hate on parties or anything. I think it's awesome. Like, that's your thing. But for me, it just felt like that moment of, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, there's something bigger that's happening for me, and to trust that. And sometimes I think it can be lonely for a little bit, which There has been lonely moments, but you're never really alone. And had I never listened to that, I wouldn't be surrounded with my people now. And that's the piece. Yeah.
Is coming through right now. Like I'm hearing a lot of like that blockage,
Yeah.
which you're on the other side of 1,000%. But I think, one of the elements that I teach my keynote speech, we talk about the voice method. And one of those elements is speaking truth. So rooted in truth is where we talk about to start. Because before I can teach someone to authentically speak on camera or a stage or a podcast, whatever, they have to be able to first communicate to their husband, hey, I don't like that.
Yes.
They have to be able to say to their client, to their mentor, to their mother, to their father, to their son, to their daughter, whoever it is, this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
These are my needs. I'm going to communicate it effectively, not in an angry way, not in a resentful way, not in a way that won't be well received. But this is where I'm at, and these are my needs. And so if we can speak from a place that is rooted in truth, that's what I first am so passionate about when it came to voice. It wasn't even, well, how do I sound better on camera so someone wants to click and like this video? It's what's coming out of the mouth and where is that coming from, and how do I amplify that voice and unlock that throat chakra in all elements of my life. And so when someone says, well, my throat chakra is blocked, I say it's because you are holding back. There is a like almost like a little child inside of you that goes, I want to say this, like this is how I'm feeling, like I want to play in the mud, or I want to do this, and you at some point are saying to her, shh, shh, shh.
You're silencing.
And you are literally just pushing her down a little bit because, well, I don't want to upset her. And he might not like this. How I found my husband was because in past relationships, I always cheated because I had no idea who the fuck I was. I was insecure. And instead of communicating to that person where I was at and what I was needed, I would go and find it somewhere else. Like, how ridiculous of me. Until I finally came to a place where I was like, wow, none of this is their fault. None of it. This is me not having the ability to say, I don't like this. This is my needs. This is where I'm at, all of these things. And so I think so many problems can be solved through communication and through having the choice to be rooted deeply in your truth and ask for what you want. I'm kind of going all over the place, but I want to segue into high ticket clients. It's one of the things that you have done. It's one of the things that you wanted to do when you came into my space. You had a massively, wildly successful business that is now I don't know the number, amplified 50K months to 200K months, whatever that is. I'm not a mathematician over here. And I feel like a piece of that, you said, I want to attract higher caliber clients. I went from $500 clients to $150,000 clients. And I did that through A, creating the offer, B, listening to God and how he wanted me to lead. What does that look like? Well, these small little offers, these aren't working. And he was speaking to me in ways that he wanted me to call in and create. But then also I had to have the ability to say, I'm worth more than that $500.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to accept that or allow these clients to walk all over me. So the second I started setting boundaries with them, the second I started saying no, the Libras, we need to say no. Absolutely. The second I started saying no, the second I started saying, well, I want that. And I'm going to call in that. And this is what I'm deserving of. And speaking that out, that's when it all started coming. I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo and there's obviously steps in between it, but that's when it all started happening for me. What was it like for you when you started your business, tinctures and tonics? Is that the word? Okay. All the way through to 200K months, $25,000 mastermind that you've just launched, and it's like this for you. People want in it. I want to relate this back to voice. I want to relate this back to rooted in truth. What was that like for you? The journey going from low ticket clients and new beginnings to 200K months.
This is powerful. That's why I always say like a soul business or when you're on purpose is going to completely transform you in the best way, because my first moon circles, things like that I would hold, I couldn't even talk. Like I wouldn't even be able to openly share my experience. That's how much I was blocked. And I remember sitting and like having to script things down so that I knew what to say and all this stuff. And, to be where I'm at now, which is like, I just flow, is such a free space to be. And so that version, like those steps, I remember setting up one of my first booths to sell, it was Vital Yogi at the time, but to sell this line. And I was just like, I don't know how to sell. I don't even know how to talk to people. How the fuck am I going to be a business owner? And I was just over, little by little by little, like it really helped me come out of my shell. And I would always have people reflect to me like, oh, in like larger settings, you're so quiet, but when you're one-on-one with people, you open up and you bloom. And, that's the beauty of Vital Mystic in this business. It's helped me like really heal those spaces where I was silencing myself or not asking for my needs or shoving it all down. So then I would never talk about the things that I really needed. And then over time, when I shut down my physical product line back in 2022 from an intuitive download and went completely into digital products and coaching, also honestly a whole message from God, I really feel like, because I had to do coaching. You have to be open with your voice, right? You have to be okay with saying, hey, I don't think that's a good decision for you, or hey, go this way, or whatever it was. So even in the last few years, I've accelerated so much in that space because I've learned to trust my voice, trust my intuition, trust what I'm seeing for a client, even if it's hard for them to hear. And now I think that's a huge piece of why a lot of people hire me is like, I'm just going to give it to you straight. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Yes, I will hold you there, but ultimately it's like, how do I say this? When God speaks to you, sometimes it is very direct and clear. And it's like when we are, circling around our power, sometimes we need that push, like you've pushed me, and it's that piece. So now to come into, which I just chuckle to myself because the idea of the $25,000 mastermind came to me like a couple months before I started working with you. And I was like, and same thing, it was like it dropped in when I was in Greece, when I was scouting my retreat location, and I just felt it. And it was like, okay, well, how much is this mastermind? It very clearly came through 25K. And I'm like, okay. And I had not sold any high ticket offers. I shut down my one-to-one coaching for an entire year. Like all my high level stuff had been closed for an entire year. Not to mention, like, I haven't done like custom rituals for people for over 5 years. So for this to come through, I was like, okay, there obviously has to be people in my field who are ready, and I'm also ready. Right. And so selling this and having this 200K month, yes, there are many identity rebirths in that process. But to be able to say, interview people and speak to people and drop a 25K price point without flinching, that is some serious ownership of my gifts. And even if I wouldn't have made any sales coming out of this, the woman I became because I chose to do it, fucking gold.
Let's go.
And that's the piece. Like, yeah, the sales are great, but actually putting yourself in the arena with that is like, yes, that's like, I know what I'm capable of now.
Right.
And it's like, it's not even a ticket number. It's more like I shed every identity that ever said that I couldn't go there and I wasn't worth it. Right. And this is the other thing that I really want to like hit home is that if you have gifts and a purpose, you need to own the shit out of that stuff, because when you do not respect your gifts, you will keep pulling in really silly little experiences. You'll pull in clients that don't respect you. You'll pull in different things. You'll be playing around with your power. But when you own what God gave you, whoo, there's like nothing that can stop you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an entirely different level.
100%.
And I think part of that, which I would love to kind of just speak to this, there are a number of people who would look at you and I and say, okay, I'm going to create a $150,000 offer. Okay, I'm going to create a $25,000 mastermind. I can do that. I'm worthy of this. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. And they got the crystals and the jewels and the mirror and the affirmations. And they're like, I'm worthy. And then they post on Instagram, I have a $25,000 mastermind. And they hear crickets.
Yeah.
And so then what does that do? It reaffirms they're not worthy of it. In the belief system, and those stories start to come into play, and then they retract into a scarcity mindset, and then they go back into their $27 offers. And this whole cycle repeats. So there is, and I need to say this for the person listening who is so desperately wanting to create high ticket offers or call in high ticket clients, there are a number of steps of identity, which is the word that you used, that need to happen in order for you to be vibrating on the frequency where you are there. Because I couldn't have 10 years ago, I couldn't have just come up with a $150,000 offer. It's like they can smell it. Like it's not
100%.
real, right? Because you haven't stepped into the identity and
Yep.
owning that that is where I'm at.
Right.
This is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And to be able to say that with so much confidence, I have a speaking gig coming up in Bali. I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
This has been beautiful. The entire conversation. I called her in so many ways. She called me in so many ways. And
Yeah.
it's been this beautiful dance of here's what I need. Here's what I can offer. Amazing. Here's what I can offer. And here's what I need in order to make that work. And she was like, yes. Yes. Like speak your needs, speak your worth. And she's like, you know what? Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
And then we rise to that same level. And now this energetic exchange and this frequency feels so abundant. It feels
Yes.
so beautiful. The way that I'm going to be able to show up and rise because I feel appreciated in my gifts and in my value. You see me for that.
Yeah.
Right. You coming here, you were like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's do it. I trust you.
100%.
It's a surrender. Let's go. And it's because I have risen to the identity of that value. And so I have an episode coming out on how to attract rich buyers. And the first step of that is you becoming the quote unquote rich buyer.
Yep.
You having the identity and the frequency
Yep.
to attract that.
Yep.
And so even the people, when we were chatting about that, and I said, if we do applications, there are going to be questions on this application that are very clear. This is where I'm at. And if you don't meet this, don't even apply. Don't hit book a call. None of this. I don't want any of that.
Right.
Because the version of you that is elevated to a $25,000 mastermind, that calls in a certain frequency of woman.
Yes.
And then boom, 200K launch.
Yep.
Because you've done the work.
100%.
So how does somebody step into that identity? And that's not a easy 2-second answer. I understand that. And that's not a, quick overnight manifestation. That's not one ritual. That's, I laugh sometimes at people who teach manifestation, and that's not to jab on it in any way, because I do believe in it. But I laugh sometimes when people are like, okay, I'm going to buy the crystal. I'm going to do the ritual. I'm going to do the affirmations. And then boom, I should be ready. Right. It's like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. So one, I would 100% is like, where are you not owning your power or your gifts? And this is not just in business. This is also in your personal life.
It's always
there.
It's
yeah.
always,
it's like, I know people have separated personal life and business. No.
The business is a reflection of what's going on in your internal world.
Exactly. And it's just like, for me, it's just like, you can't, it's your energetics, your core root of how you're relating with your energy, right? And relating with your power and relating with what you know you're capable of. And it's like, there isn't a one-step formula. I think, to be the woman who holds a 25K mastermind, you have unshakable faith in what you're being called to do. And so even if nobody signed up in this launch, I knew that I was like, well, I became the woman who's about to hold that. Right. And especially, so this is what I always like to say too, is a lot of people are like, oh, I launched, like no one's buying. I'm like, you keep going. You keep walking in your life until those things are there. Right. And it's not everything, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to, it's like, it didn't come from my mind. Like it didn't come from like, I want a 25K mastermind. Like it came through my intuition and said, now we're going to do this. And guess what happened? It scared the shit out of me. It tested me on every little story that I would say, well, how could I handle that? Blah, 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 all these things. And that's how I knew it was the right thing. So wherever that edge is for you, maybe it's a 5K thing. Maybe it's a 10K. Maybe it's 100K. Maybe it's a million, whatever it is, meet the edge. And I think a lot of times with entrepreneurship, we can get, even especially for established entrepreneurs, we can get comfortable, right? I was really comfortable where I was launching lower level offers. I worked less than 3 days a week. I didn't have any calls on my calendar. It was awesome. But what I realized was I was actually avoiding what I came here to actually do, which was hold people and their greatness and really be involved in that step-by-step process, because that's where God can speak through me. That's where I can say, hey, you're going to hold this. Like, you're not going to get that in a lower level offer, right? I'm not there with you. And that's the piece, is like, I know people are going to be ready for that because it came through, not through my mind because I wanted the money. It came through the vision of my heart. And I knew that even if on every level of my brain, which was, no one's going to pay you 25K, it's like, even if it doesn't make logical sense, this is why I always say, all the things that don't make logical sense, or my brain's like, no way that could happen, but my heart deeply knows it's like, and it's being called, I know it's going to be wildly successful. And it's always just kind of like, whatever that edge, that fear, that's where you actually need to go. Because fear is the mask that freedom wears before it's realized. And I know that, you know, even doing this content or doing all the things that you and I are working on, speaking all of those edges, I'm like, let's go. Because I know what's on the other side of that. And it's not just about me. It's not just about the money I'm making. It's literally to help and serve other people.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful when people step into that, because so often they'll acknowledge that fear, that edge, and then they retract.
Yeah.
Majority of people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what separates the 1% from everybody else, is the ability
100%.
to see that fear, because we feel it too.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every
We're
single
aware
day.
it's there. I'm aware that edge is there. And every time that edge is there, it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, that is the way. That is everything great is on the other side of feeling that fear. And it's also a signal.
Yeah.
It's a way God speaks to me.
Yep.
It's a beautiful signal of that is something I haven't done yet. And it scares me because it's uncomfortable, because I haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not that version of me yet.
Yeah.
But what an awesome invitation to step into that.
100%.
This is a great segue, because we were kind of talking about values and dollar amounts. And so this is a great segue to talk about wealth.
Yeah.
One of your other very powerful and very dominant topics that you like to talk about is wealth.
Absolutely.
And I come from more of the place of money mindset. I do a lot of work in that space when I talk about elevating to a higher ticket audience, or asking for more money for your keynote, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that $25,000 value, my $150,000 value, the number came after the vision.
Yeah.
And you had said that, and I think that this is so important, because I talk about this when you're attracting higher ticket rich buyers.
Yeah.
I didn't go in saying it's going to be $150,000.
Yep.
Okay, well, what would be worthy of $150,000? A little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and then I think, oh, that feels about $150,000. Okay, well, let's put it out there and hope somebody buys it. No, it was, what am I being called to create?
Yep.
You say getting out of your head and getting into your heart. What am I being called to create? Who can I serve?
Yeah.
What would this look like?
Yeah.
And even look at my body language, right? We're coming from a more of a place of expansion.
Right.
But in that, all of a sudden, then I'm like, this is worthy of $150,000. That $150,000 price tag did not come out of my mouth. It came out of my clients.
Yeah. Wow.
I said, what is this worth to you?
Mm-hmm.
And when that price came out of their mouth, that was the price.
Wow. I love that.
So let's talk about wealth.
Yeah.
Because wealth is not $25,000 masterminds and $150,000 offers and being able to fly to Austin, Texas for a week and have an Airbnb while you're also renting a beautiful historic hotel and all of the fancy things that we have been so beautifully blessed to do over the last few days. Wealth is also finding the abundance and the wealth in every bit and piece of your life. Me being able to go home last night and feed my newborn baby and have him hold my finger tightly is wealth.
Yes.
And there's so many different avenues of wealth in our lives. And I know that this is something that you talk very passionately about. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. I really think that wealth, or I just know that wealth for me, it's a not just a vibration, but it's an experience of life. So there's been many moments, and I always share this story because the rituals came through in a time where I could barely pay my rent. I had just left a long-term relationship. A lot of our finances were stuck together, and I just came out of that just totally raw. And I birthed the rituals from this place of like, well, I know I'm powerful enough to do something. So I sat down, and this ritual, the rituals started to come through. And within the first week, I called in $1,000 or all of those things. For me, wealth is knowing that regardless of what circumstances are around you, is that you got it. You got it. You have a power inside of you that is going to outshine everything. And also wealth is being able to look at your current life and literally see how wealthy you are. You don't have to have a lot of possessions. You don't have to have a lot of money or, in the bank, all of those things. And I've been all of these different versions. it's the piece about how you use your energy and what you intend to and what you invest in, and not just money. It's your focus, it's your integrity, right? It's your space. It's like, how am I going to devote myself to that calling, that piece inside of me? And that's, to me, what makes you wealthy. Because I think we talked about this yesterday. Like, this is one of I love my mentors because they have supported me. But one of the biggest things, like, one of my mentors ran like multi-billion corporations and all sorts of stuff. And she never worked with me on strategy. She worked on my beliefs. And she always said, anyone can cancel you on the internet. Your Instagram account can disappear tomorrow. Your bank, you could get hacked and have all your money taken away. But the biggest thing, she's like, you have the entire wealth and all the things on how to rebuild like this. That is wealth. Because you could have nothing and rebuild it overnight, because what you've developed in the process is a complete trust and faith in not just your gifts, but your ability to move when you're being called to move. And that's what I always think about. There's been so many moments in business for me that logically did not make sense at the time, like shutting down a physical product line that was already making, almost six figures, and like going into digital products and coaching, which I had never done. So I followed that intuitive nudge, and everyone thought I was totally nuts. And now it's made over seven figures, right? So those pivots come when you are listening, and they might ask you to close down old identities, old structures, all the things, because literally you're about to become a different person. I could have said to that download or vision, nah, I'm good. I'm just going to stay where I'm at. Oh, no, I'll just scale this. That makes more logical sense. Thank God I did not do that, because I just accelerated. I quantum leaped so quickly. And that was my first understanding of, wow, what happens when you actually listen. And that, to me, when you can listen, even if it looks like everything might burn down, and have full trust and faith on how the universe is leading you, that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. I mean, that is wealth.
That is wealth.
That is wealth. Literally.
Yeah.
It is within you. It cannot be taken away. That is wealth.
Yep.
I'm hearing, and I'm actually seeing like a visual representation of this, because you keep saying, listen, you need to listen, you need to listen, you need to listen. And what I'm seeing when you say that is the person who is keeping every aspect of their life busy.
Yes.
They're living in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the confidence to sit in the silence, to allow it to come through. So they are flooding that silence with noise.
Yes.
And that can look like opening up my phone and scrolling on social media because I can't sit in silence, jumping from relationship to relationship because I don't have the power to be alone, creating low ticket offer after low ticket offer because I don't have the confidence and the courage to let those all burn down and then create one signature offer.
Exactly.
Posting about everything under the sun and not being known for one thing because I'm hoping that this will speak to that person, this will speak to that person, this will speak to that person.
Yeah.
These are all forms of noise.
Yeah.
And so when you and I talk about creating space, think about a dome that you're in.
Yeah.
And if it's just full, there is no more space to allow for you to step into, take that back, for you to emerge as a version of you that is supposed to come out.
Right.
We have to quiet that noise.
Mm-hmm.
You have to allow for that space to be emptied, for that relationship that's not serving you to leave, to stop being friends with that girl, to stop dating that person, to stop eating the foods that you are eating. If you want to break those cycles, that space that is occupied by the things that aren't serving you have to go in order for you to step into and call into and all those types of things, the version of you that already exists inside.
Exactly.
And like, I just keep seeing this visual of that, of so many people that are just filling it. It's like you're just filling that basket full of junk because they can't sit in the silence and listen.
Right.
So when I hear you say, listen, that is my advice for the person that's listening to this right now. Can you stop and be present?
Right.
Do you trust yourself enough?
Right.
Can you leave the unhealthy relationship knowing that something better will come in? That one is so relevant, especially for women.
Yeah.
Do you have the confidence to be alone, to work on yourself, and to not just sleep around and run from relationship to relationship, knowing that God will give you what is yours when you are aware?
Yes.
Sit in the silence. Open up your eyes to what's happening around you. Go to a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Don't bring your laptop. Don't bring your phone.
Yeah.
To have a cup of coffee, sit and listen.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
awarenesses that come through when you create that space, it's probably the first place that I can tell someone to start in terms
Yeah.
of being touched by God or listening
Absolutely.
to how God is speaking to you. It'll create a lot of awarenesses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always, like God will never send you more if you're already saying you're overwhelmed. That's,
Or if he
yeah.
keeps on saying something or he keeps on trying to teach you
Yeah.
and you keep on,
Going back.
right.
Which I'm
Yeah.
sure we've all had those
Yeah.
moments.
I
Yeah.
mentioned to you, I'll tell this story very briefly, but I mentioned to you that there was a very, very sexy offer that came into my lap a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking multi-million-dollar offer that came
Mm-hmm.
into my lap. And at first, right, it's like that shiny little toy that's dangling in front of you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what's this? Oh,
Yeah.
what's this? So I'm playing in that field and there's a tug. There's a tug and there's a knowing inside of me. And here's where speaking your truth, that's something that I teach and I want so many people, I'm so passionate for them to embody. Nobody else understood why I was saying no to this.
Yep.
Nobody.
Yep.
My husband didn't understand. The person that was offering it to me didn't understand. My parents didn't
Yep.
understand. Anyone that I had mentioned it to was like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? This would change everything, XYZ. And I'm like, it's a no.
Yeah.
The noise that I'm hearing, it's noise. And I know inside of me, it's either a test or whatever. Maybe it's a little bit of the enemy in there, drizzling
Yeah.
in to try to distract me.
Yep.
Because he likes to do that. He
Yeah.
comes after the people that are the strongest. He'll
Mm-hmm.
come in and he'll say, I'm gonna try to do all this because I'm gonna try to take her away from what she's creating. Because what she's
Yep.
creating
Is really
is building the
powerful.
kingdom of God. That's
Yep.
super freaking powerful. And so I need to try to take her away from that. And there was a knowing that
Mm-hmm.
I have the ability to listen to. We all have the ability to listen to, but
Yeah.
most people would say, that's the opportunity.
Yep.
But yet there's something inside of you that's like,
Yep.
why doesn't it feel right?
Yep.
Why doesn't this friendship feel right? Why does this feel forced? Why doesn't this relationship feel right anymore? Why doesn't this
Yeah.
offer feel right anymore? I've burnt down every version of my business so many times.
Yeah.
And right now, one of the most abundant places in my life, I don't really have an offer. Like, I don't really have an offer. I'm speaking, I'm writing my book, I've got my VIP clients, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about what am I creating. I'm just sitting in a space
Yeah.
and allowing God to bring it to me until it feels so right that I'm like, yes, let's go. And I'm ready
Yeah.
to jump.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I was faced with something like that a few years ago when I decided to like do the digital products and everything like that. I had a lot of shiny opportunities come towards me, like sweeten the deal, sweeten the deal, sweeten the deal. And everyone was like, oh, like you should do this, and everything inside of me was like, no, and it seemed crazy because it was a really great, some multiple opportunities. And I was like, this isn't it. Like, I think the universe, you could call it a test, you call it an invitation, but it's like, had I taken that bright, shiny opportunity, we wouldn't be speaking right now, and I had to have complete trust and faith in that when it is aligned, I will know. And even if it's bright and shiny, it doesn't matter because ultimately there could be even something greater by saying no to that. And that's the piece. Are you willing to listen so much to your guidance that you will literally look crazy to everybody else?
Yes, let's go.
Yeah.
Amen. I like to give this visual for our visual learners. I like to give this analogy of like maybe like a flagpole or something,
Yeah.
right? And right down the center of it, it's rock solid. It's
Mhm.
meant, it's strong. And that is like your destiny. That's your aligned path. That's your truth. That's what feels so good to you. That's the path that
Yeah.
God has for you. And what happens is so often we'll stray.
Yep.
Right? We'll come off the path a little bit and there's something shiny over here or whatever it is, we'll stray. And then maybe we come back to our truth and then we stray, right? We'll stray over here. And it's kind of just this dance of continuously straying away from our aligned path.
Right.
But think about what happens when you have a flagpole, how it's the strongest in the center of this flagpole. And then the further that you get away from that flagpole and you're trying to put on weight, it's not as supported, right?
Yep.
It doesn't have the same strength that it does right down the center of that flagpole.
Mhm.
And so I like to explain to people, you will feel good. Everything feels good. You're radiant. Why are you glowing? Where's this energy coming from? She's magnetic. She attracts all of this type of stuff. It happens when you are in alignment.
Yes.
It happens when you speak your truth. The relationship will work when it is one that feels good and you are not doing this.
Yep.
Right? And every time it gets out of this, I can acknowledge where it's at and I can bring it back into that alignment so that it's strong and it is rooted in that truth.
Yeah.
And I believe so much of that comes back to of course, awareness, but then being able to speak it.
Right.
Speak your desires. And that's why I'm so passionate about voice work, is because
Yeah.
I think so many of the things that lead us off that path come when we, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Sure, I'll take that amount of money, even though I don't want to. Yes, I will answer your
Mm-hmm.
call at 12 o'clock at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who say to me, well, my clients are abusing me. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
my clients will text me at 12 o'clock at night. Okay. So first of all, who gave the client the personal cell phone number?
Right.
And are you responding at 12 o'clock at night?
Right.
I used to get this a lot. Here's another good analogy for the woman who says, well, my DMs are filled with inappropriate comments. Go ahead, take my phone right now and look through my DMs. There is not one. And there has
Yeah.
not been one in probably a year.
Yeah.
Because the energy that I put out is
Absolutely.
not that energy. It is not that
100%.
frequency at all.
Yeah.
And so if I'm acknowledging that, if I'm double tapping those acknowledgments, if I'm hearting the inappropriate comments, any of that, I'm
Yep.
putting out the energy that is signaling that it is okay to talk to me that way. It's
Yep.
okay to treat me that way.
Yep.
But the second that you speak that truth and you put out the frequency of do not text me at 12 o'clock at night, because guess what? I don't answer.
Yeah.
And so what happens to a normal, sane person if they reach out at midnight, she doesn't answer?
Yeah.
They reach out at midnight, she doesn't answer. They
Yeah.
reach out at midnight, she doesn't answer. They're going to stop reaching out at midnight.
Yeah.
The guy who's reaching out and you don't acknowledge.
Yep.
You're double tapping. He's like, oh, okay. She likes this.
Yeah.
I don't acknowledge. It stops.
100%.
And so all of that is in how we want to be treated. It starts with you.
Yeah.
It starts with what the energy that you put out into the world. The business that you want, it's the energy you put out into the world. The abundance that you want, it's the energy that you put out into the world.
Yeah.
You attracting 200K months into your life, it's because you had all of the identity, the elements I just spoke about, or that level of identity
Right.
that are deserving of the 200K months.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of times, it's like we think that those big results should be like all glorious rainbows and unicorns, but to be the woman that I am today, to hold that level of a 200K month or 25K, I actually had to know what I'm not available for. And that's the piece, is I'm super clear with, I'm in the chat at this time, we're doing this is how this is structured, and I've been through so many initiations like your other clients where I'm like, yeah, I'm not available for that. And before I even landed this beautiful month, I had to hold multiple boundaries with different people in my life. And that was a piece, right? Because we talk about leaky energy. It's like, oh, well, why is it showing up in your life? There obviously is something inside of me that says, yeah, it's totally fine to talk to me like that. Yeah, it's totally fine to overly DM me at an inappropriate time. It's totally okay to not, try to come in and tell me what to do in my own program. And then that's where the piece where like you honor your gifts, right? And that's why I always say, like, the divine feminine is soft and receiving, but if you've ever seen a woman give birth, that is fierce as fuck, right? So like that's what I'm saying, is like we can be in our feminine, but we take no shit. And it also helps other people, whether they're doing it subconsciously or not. It helps other people, bounce back and be like, oh, okay, like don't do that with her. You know what I mean? Or like hopefully it comes back and helps them realize that their behavior is not okay. You know what I mean? And it's like that's the boundary setting. That's the space. And it comes back to that space of wealth that you were talking about, like that dome of wealth, because it is like, this is what I'm available for. This is what I'm not. Right. And I know how to operate within that divine intention and divine alignment. And I know what a yes and a no feels like in my body. And I'm going to stand behind that, even if it's uncomfortable, even if I'm called crazy. And it's always uncomfortable. And I'm like, call me fucking crazy. But guess what? I know where I'm going. Yeah.
But also, how good does it feel?
Oh, it
how
feels so
good
great.
does it feel to, and again, in like a very beautiful way, in a very respectful way, we learn how to communicate and to say, hey, thank you so much. It's a no. And this is why, or I may not even tell you why.
Yeah.
It's just a no.
It's just
and
I
don't need to support that with justifications of why. It's just, it's a no.
Yeah.
Like that level of discernment has drastically changed my life.
Yeah.
There's no justification needed behind any of that. And being able, I had someone the other day made a coffee. I drink oat milk in my coffee. If we don't have any oat milk, I'm going to give you almond milk. Is that okay? No.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's such a simple and small example, but that's where it starts.
Right.
At first I was like, okay, it's fine, whatever. You know
Yeah.
what?
You know
No,
what you want. Yeah.
yeah, it isn't okay. I don't, and I'll take my money back and I'll go to another coffee shop. I want oat milk.
Yeah.
And that's not
There you
like the,
go. No.
whatever you want to call it, demanding version of me. That's just no, like almond milk hurts my belly.
Yeah. There you go. There's no
Right?
point. Like,
Yeah.
that's like,
And
oh, yeah.
think about the ways when you don't speak your truth and it ends up hurting you in a more
Exactly.
physical way than almond milk.
Yeah.
So, I want to wrap this up. I want to leave this. We could talk all day.
I know. You and I
Literally,
could
we could talk all
definitely.
day. I
Yeah.
feel like there's probably version 2.0 that comes out with this conversation. I can already anticipate the messages that we're going to get of, can you do another one? So, let's wrap this up with you, the next steps for you, the next versions of you. You're calling in 100K months. Or sorry, you were calling in $1 million months. Let's
We've passed
definitely
that already.
let's definitely correct that. What is next for you? You're working on a book. I want to segue into that. You are calling in speaking,
Yeah.
and when I asked you what you wanted to speak about, the download that came through shocked both of us.
Yeah.
And so I just want to talk a little bit about what can people expect next from you, and what are you feeling called into?
Yeah, Vital Mystic is expanding. It's taking its full purpose in the world at this point, and so am I. And we're really branching out to include physical products as well as digital. But for me, myself, $1 million months. It's funny because I was working towards 100K months for so long, and then the second that I was like, whatever, we'll just do this, 200K done, And I'm like, all right, this is just the trajectory we're on. Next, I'm definitely working on a book, looking into getting, going to be published and starting a speaking career, which, the keynote that came through, I think that shocked both of us, is a keynote on death. And it's not something that I typically talk about on my platform, but because death was such a big part of waking up my spiritual gifts and putting me on purpose, I think it's really important. And it ties into how I personally have been touched by God.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on the fact that it's not just physical death only, it's death and rebirth. So it's a lot of like endings and new beginnings and that type of, you should probably call it death and rebirth or something.
Yeah,
so people don't think that it's just about death, but I'm really excited
Yeah.
to be a part of seeing you bring that to the world and to, stand on stages preaching that message. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah.
I'm excited to read your book as well.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Are you in the writing stages yet?
We've got a title. I pretty much have an outline, but yeah, we're in the process of creating the proposal, and yeah, it's there. I feel, it's one of those things like it's already written. Just gotta let it come through.
Literally gotta let the words come through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, an invitation for space. Like you and I are in a place where I'm not forcing small offers or anything like that. Alignment will come through so that I have the space to write, and I've been writing, and it feels so beautiful and so powerful to just write and allow this book to come through me as well.
Absolutely.
And so, I feel you on that. It's an exciting place.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to end things with 2 questions.
Okay.
The first question is, what does a savage mean to you? Or what does it mean to be a savage?
Never giving up. And what I mean, like, obviously we all have moments where we want to, but it's like following the yes in your heart, even if it's hard.
Beautiful.
Especially if it's hard.
Okay. So the next question is a piece of advice or a last word of wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with.
It's okay to be called crazy.
That came through right away for you.
Yeah, it's okay to be called crazy. The right ones are going to see you at the right time, and then everyone's going to ask you how the fuck you did it.
Lived experience.
Watch me.
Yeah. I love it. Amazing. For anyone that would like to get a hold of you and get plugged into your world, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram or any of the social medias at Vital Mystic, vital.mystic, and then you can find us at vitalmystic.com.
Yeah. Camille, thank you so much for being here, for allowing us in just a very small bit of the wisdom and the lived experience that's inside of you. It's been a gift. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for flying in from California for this conversation and this experience. I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to all the things that we're doing together. Well, savages, that is all that we have for you for today's episode. I trust that you will enjoy this episode. And remember, a savage can get knocked down, but they will always get back up. Keep on fighting. Peace, guys.